Thank you so much, Saisha ma'am. A very pleasant morning to all the dignitaries and students present over this digital platform. I, Assistant Professor Amar Salve, on behalf of Hindi Vidya Prachar Samiti's College of Law, wishes to welcome you all for this third day, and session's topic is recent trends in digitalization of forensic. I am extremely honored to introduce you today's eminent personality, our today's guest speaker, Dr. Pooja Chakraborty Madam. Ma'am is a forensic odontologist by profession. Currently, she is employed as an assistant professor and head of the Department of Forensic Science and Criminology in AFC Group of Institution, India. She completed her Bachelor of Dental Surgery in 2018 with outstanding marks. On her quest to do something different, she went on to pursue her master in forensic odontology, odontology thereafter. To her credit, she has an international and national paper and poster presentation, and also bagged few awards for the same. She has contributed articles in both national and international journals and has even co-authored a chapter on recent advances in forensic odontology. She is trained in performing dental autopsy. She has keen interest for forensic archaeology and forensic facial reconstruction. She is actively involved in the field of forensic and has addressed various talks for the graduate, postgraduate, as well as security professionals. She has been invited as a speaker on various platforms. She is actively involved with international agencies dealing with DVI operations. She has also been honored with membership of the Institute of Disaster Management and Safety Science, Nigeria. There is a huge list. Ma'am, you have achieved a very high achievements at a very short span of time, and we are very much glad to have with us today for this important topic. We are hoping that our students will definitely get enlightened with your lecture. Over to you, ma'am, Dr. Pooja Chakraborty.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for this wonderful explanation. I'm flattered. And I really hope that the students can gain something out of this session. That is the ultimate motto of meeting so early. Okay, just give me a second. I'll share my screen. I hope the screen is visible for everybody.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So today the topic will be recent advances in digitalization of forensics. First of all, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude for organizing this kind of a program where the students are being accustomed to the newer technology. Now, I was never of the thought that the conventional technologies can completely overcome the unconventional or the newer technologies, but at the same time, it has to be a two-way relation where we will be taking the base from the conventional technologies and we will get to do more into the advancements in forensics. And over the period of time, the pattern of crime has changed. So definitely it calls for the change in methodologies itself. I'll give you a very simple example. Most of you, I'm pretty sure that you have been watching the criminal shows like CID or crime scene investigation or any kind of other Chinese or Korean movie. But in that case, the first thing, what do you see the investigating officers will do? They are going to go and search for a fingerprint. But owing to these kinds of particular programs, you should also know that not only you are enhancing your knowledge, but at the same time, the criminals are also getting a good amount of knowledge when it comes to performing crime. So that makes the sensitivity or the awareness of this kind of crime. ultimately leading to the criminals are using gloves. So if they are using gloves, it is very rare chances that you're going to encounter a possible fingerprint into the crime scene. But is that the end for forensics? The answer is absolutely no. So if the fingerprint is not present, we have to opt for other methods. Now, what you see in front of the screen right now is the change how it happened. There was a time when wristwatch was a common phenomenon, but now it has 80 to 90% shifted to the digital watches. Same way, today we are moving on a digital platform. Did we ever think that we can hold classes or we can interact with somebody on the digital platform? But that also happened. And that is the same way that forensics has also spread its wings long apart, and we have the very, very needed advances in the field of forensic science. We'll start with a very simple method that is called as heloscopy. Now, since this lecture is more about the advances, I'll try to emphasize more on the advances methods related to some particular topics in this case. I'll just quickly explore you what is heloscopy. The study of lip print, what you can already see in the screen. So, well, lip print is a completely different science, which is most importantly involved in forensic odontology. It is similar to that of your fingerprint, where you get a latent fingerprint or a patent print. Patent print means what is visible, like a lipstick lip mark, you can say. And latent print is which is not visible. You need some methods to visualize. Now, when we are using these kind of conventional methods, one major problem is when we take a sellotape to transfer the lip print may get distorted or it can have a air bubble which can interfere with the results that you're having. In that case, the analysis that you're going to make may not be 100% accurate one. So what's the solution? The solution is some simple methods like macro photography. Now, each one of you have a cell phone, and all the cell phones these days are well accustomed with a very good camera backup or a camera support. So, this simple phenomena of a macro photography is going to. Okay, can I please request the participants to stop using your markers? Can you please not do that? So when we are doing this kind of macro photography, there is two-way purposes that is serving. One, we have a permanent evidence because the photographic evidence cannot be destroyed. Second, we can use it for the analysis as well. What you see right in front of your screen is the lip print, which was used for the analysis. In the second half, you can see the different classifications of lip prints that is mentioned as well. So whenever we are doing this kind of analysis, it is very easy for us to maintain the record. At the same time, if I have a doubt regarding any of my analysis, I can send it over to another expert who can give me a better opinion or rather a second opinion, which can help to solve the particular case. Next, we move on to rugoscopy. So, what is rugoscopy? The study of rugae pattern. If you roll your tongue upside towards your palate, you will feel that there is some kind of curve that is present on your palate. That particular feature that is present on your palate is called as your rugoscopy. Now, keloscopy, rugoscopy, these are some integral parts of forensic odontology that will be useful for the human identification. Whenever we talk about forensics, the first thing that comes into our mind is post-mortem. But trust me, students, post-mortem is only 20% of forensic science. 80% of forensic science actually involves around the identification of a human being. I'm sure most of you know about corpus delicti. Corpus delicti means that when the body is not found, there is no evidence that a crime has happened. And even though a body is found and it is unidentified, in that particular case as well, you are going to encounter challenges with your investigation. So, first thing that we need is your human identification. And methods like your rugoscopy, heloscopy, these are some easy methods by which you can perform the identification. But there are certain challenges that are involved in this kind of crime. The first and foremost being bias and the method of recording. And that's the reason why we have come up with newer technologies or the newer methods which we are going to use. In this particular case, we are going to use one is a software, and second is the intraoral scanner. So instead of using the conventional methods of recording a cast in which maybe because of air bubble, because of technique sensitivity, the results may vary. But in the intraoral scanner, we'll be using the software. So the entire process is visualized and it is going to be a permanent source of evidence for you. In the second half, that is on your right hand side, you can see the superimposition. Now, when we perform a superimposition, you can really feel that your palette is not a plain surface, it is like a U. So, when we perform superimposition, it may be difficult to place one image over the other. But the same thing when it is performed in any kind of a software, a very common example for you I'll give you is Adobe Photoshop, which you generally use for your own photo editing. But there is one thing you need to keep in mind. Whichever app you use, that has to be a licensed version. If you are not using the licensed version of any kind of software, it is not going to be admissible in the court of law during your trial. So better to use any software that is perfectly okay, but it has to be a licensed software. Next, we'll go with dental radiology. Now, a big part of forensic deals with humanitarian forensic approach. What is this humanitarian forensic approach? When we cut the body or where there is too much of blood or the dead bodies are cut open. In that particular case, we know that many people have a different approach towards the forensic sciences, that they are becoming cruel, they are becoming inhuman. So what we have done is to reduce this, we have used the non-invasive method. Now, what is this non-invasive method? Which is not going to do too much of a bloodshed, but at the same time, it is not going to compromise on the quality of the forensic investigation. So first, in that case, would be the radiology. Everybody knows X-ray. So even without opening your hand, you can take a X-ray and find out whether your bone is broken or it is strong, right? So in case of the dental radiology, the machineries are very heavy. It is wall mounted. Conventional methods will be used to shoot the X-ray, and it is difficult to shoot when the movement is restricted. Now, when I'm talking about movement is restricted, think about a dead body. It is not at all easy to move the dead body into a standing position, into a side position. So it is very difficult to work with this kind of wall mounted heavy machinery. So we had to make a change. Change to what? Change to a particular system where the dead bodies can be very conveniently radiographed. And these kind of methodologies are portable. That means you can carry those kind of utilities to any kind of disaster site. Now, when we have a disaster site, like for example, any volcano, any earthquake, wherever, we are not going to take the heavy wall mounted machineries because it's going to take a lot of space. So if you have a very small, handy, portable X-ray, it is easy for you to carry to the site. It is easy for you to record the site as well. It can be used with fragile samples. Now, this is particularly in case of archaeological samples or burned samples. You know that when a substance is burned, it becomes fragile. That means easy to break. So if you lift up that particular sample, it is completely going to turn into ashes. So how are you going to do it? The portable X-ray need not to be taken. The portable X-ray has to be taken to the evidence instead of the evidence being taken to the X-ray. That's another benefit. The complete record can be taken. Now, when it was wall mounted,
Complete
the machine's complete movement was restricted in that particular case. So what we have with this is that, sorry, I just understood the issue. Yeah, so what we have is a portable X-ray. So we can very easily take it to the different sides of the mouth and we can have a complete record. It can be easily stored
of your a permanent
a permanent source of your evidence, and it is very effective in cases of analysis of your ancient samples like your archaeological samples or the burnt samples. Next, we are going to talk about bite marks. Now, bite marks is one of the most important evidences when we have in a parts the sexual offences cases, or in some cases even the case of domestic violence or any kind of abuse. So bite mark majorly relies on two parameters. That is the teeth and the arch characteristics, that is in terms of your size of the teeth, shape of the teeth, number of teeth, what type of dentition it is, whether it is deciduous dentition or is it a permanent dentition, what is the position of the teeth, whether there is any spacing in the teeth or not, whether their arch shape is a U shape or a V shape, what is the width of the teeth. These are the first set of parameters. And second one is the type of material which is fitted. Even though we say that bite mark is a vital evidence, but not that it doesn't come to challenges. So some challenges that we mainly encounter in cases of bite marks is that the time elapsed since the bite has been made. Now let's take a very practical scenario in India where the police is informed that they have found the body. The police is going to take a minimum time to reach that particular crime scene. They are going to see that, okay, there is a crime that has happened. I need a forensic support. They will call for the forensic team. The forensic team will also take some time to reach over there, and that's when the analysis will start. So there is a big time that is lost in between. And at the same time, if the tissue is living, there is going to be shrinkage. Now, why the shrinkage? If you get a cut, a small cut, do you really visit the doctor every time? No. It heals because it is the natural condition of our body that has to heal itself. The same way that bite mark also starts healing. So if you take a record after 3 hours and measure that, the size of the piece in the bite mark is 3 millimeters, which is actually a shinked one, and you take a suspect mark which is 2.8, it is very difficult to prove in the court of law that the 2.8 centimeters of the suspect is actually equal to the 3 millimeter of the bite mark that is found in the crime scene. So I hope I could explain to you what is the main challenge that we find in cases of sibling scenario. The next is recording of the bite mark using manual method can be very tricky because mostly the bite marks are very shallow. That means it is not deep. When you have a deep structure with you, it is somewhat easy for you to record that particular bite mark. But when the particular mark is very shallow, there has to be a very, very unique technique. It is very, very unique in that particular case. And there are several methods that are developed for the bite mark analysis, but most of it can be challenged in the court of law because of its ambiguity. That means that if I say my method is the best method, another expert can very cleverly.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt in between.
Yeah, sure.
Participant, please don't scribble on the screen. Ma'am, there is a one request from the student side. Can you able to
Mhm.
zoom the screen because they can able to read them?
Okay, sure, I'll do that, sir.
Thanks a lot, ma'am.
So what method I follow, it may be the best method for me, but it can be very easily challenged by another expert who is going to follow another method. So what are the different methods that we have? What are the different methods we have for the bite mark analysis? First is metric of the teeth surfaces. Metric means measurement, whether it is 2.8 millimeter, whether it is 3 millimeters, or it is more. The metric has to be measured. Second is photographic comparison. Photographic comparison means one, you're going to take the photograph of the crime scene bite mark, and one, you're going to take the photograph of the suspect bite mark, and you're going to match both of it. If it is a match, it's a positive identification. If it is not a match, it is a negative identification. same way, we are going to do superimposition. The word superimposition means to pose the photo one over the other. So in that case, if the width is matching, whether the shape is matching, whether the number of feet are matching, we can easily identify the bite mark of the text, whether it's a match or not. Next is the scanning electron microscopy analysis, xerographic method, or the overlay method. I'll show you some pictures which you can understand. Now, usually, this is the method we are going to use to take a bite mark from a suspect. We will be taking a wax flash. In that, we will ask the person to register their bite, and then we will be recording the bite mark. And this is the second method of manually imprinting or taking the bite mark, where we use elastomer. That is your normal dental materials which we use for dental treatment for recording the bite mark. But in this particular case, because the bite mark is very shallow in nature, the record quality might be very poor. Next, this is one advanced technology. So the same thing, what I told you how we do manually, now we are going to do it in case it is a digitalized method. So digitalized method means we are going to take a scan of that particular cast and then we are going to match it. And this is your superimposition technique. So what superimposition we are doing? When we have the bite mark and the photograph, we are going to digitally place the photo one over the other. In this particular case, what we have done is, in the photo itself, we have drawn the outlines of the piece which we think that could be the possible bite mark. So this is a case of a double bite mark, not just a single bite mark. And this is your overlay method, that digitally we are going to convert the cast into a 3D model and we are going to impose it over the 3D dental grid. Next we have is your 3D scanning method here. 3D scanning is a method in which we are going to scan the different surfaces of the particular evidence. So it could be a volumetric scan, it could be a surface scan, which I'll explain you in the next few slides. So once we are scanning it, we get a replica of that particular evidence. And that becomes a permanent evidence. That is one part. Second part, we can digitally verify the genuinity of the evidence as well. So these are the different types of scanners we have. On the left hand side, what you see is the surface scanner. Surface scanner means only the surface of the evidence details will be encountered. The inside, that is the volumetric one, will be done using the right hand side scanner, single scanner which you can see. It is called as a volumetric scanner. If I am taking the scan of my own skull, in that case, if I use the surface scan, only the outside pieces of my face will be captured. But if I take the volumetric scan, even the inside of my skull, that means the brain cavity, the face cavity, all of it will be very easily captured, and you can go for a 3D print and you get a 3D replicated model. Again, we will talk about it in detail. Next is digital comparison method. So instead of manually comparing it, which can lead to a lot of bias, which can lead to a lot of technique sensitivity, we'll be using the digital comparison method using the legitimate software which is already available. So some of the software which you can use is GIMP, GIMP, Adobe Photoshop, the licensed version, or we have DG Miser like a kind of software which are frequently used in cases of crime scene investigation. So the benefit of this digital comparison is that it can always be available for a recheck. But if I do a manual check, the evidences are not always available every time I want to visualize it. So in digital comparison, I can take a screenshot, I can take a particular photograph, and I can save it and I can explain it later what methodology I had used for my particular analysis. Now, this is an example of a software, Dental Print, in which you can see that the entire technique of superimposition or bite mark analysis had been digitalized, and the overlay method is being used for the purpose of your superimposition and the bite mark analysis technique. Next we have is the alternate light sources. Now usually we are going to use the natural light when it comes to forensic science, but there are certain scenarios where we have to use the alternate sources of light. What is this alternate sources of light? In your class 12, if you remember, you had studied about the electromagnetic spectrum, where the different lights have different wavelengths. So since they have a different wavelength, they have a different level of penetration, different level of absorption, different level of reflection, because of which various differences will be there when we see the evidence under different sources of light. Like you can see in this particular case, the bite mark is very faint. But when we are using a dull yellow light, the pattern is becoming visible. But there is a high possibility if you use a natural light, the pattern won't be so clear. Same, the second pictures you can see how the different lights are used for visualizing your different types of evidences. Specifically in this particular case, the traumatic injuries has been used. So what we have today is the alternate light sources kit. In one kit itself, all the variety of lights are available. And if by chance we don't have the different kits, what we usually do is we are going to use the different colors of glasses in order to produce that light. Even though it's not a 100% accurate method, but it can be used for the analysis. Then we have a major topic that is called as age estimation. Especially in India, age estimation is very, very vital because there are many perks, many kinds of laws that is dependent on the age itself. Now, if there is a case, you have to determine whether the person is juvenile or an adult. For juvenile, the particular crime laws are different. For adults, the laws are different. So if you miss on the age part, what you ultimately lose is the authenticity of that particular age, right? So we have the various methods, and not to mention, you have all the non-invasive methods in that case. Non-invasive means you're not going to perform any kind of aid where the invasions are used. So in the screen, what you see is a flow chart for the dental age estimation, which is one of the most vital evidences that is used for the age estimation for adolescents as well as for children. Now, I'll not go into the details of this particular method because clinical methods, manual methods, these are very commonly discussed. What we are going to learn today is the advancements. What advancements do we do? CBCT, that is your cone beam computerized tomography, these CT scans are being used for the age estimation. Now, when we use these kind of methods, the results are very accurate, very reliable, as well as it is very time dependent. So when you do a manual analysis, there are chances that you will take a lot of time, and ultimately there might be a lot of bias as well. But when you have a digitalized method, the accuracy rate and the reliability rate, and third is your reproducibility. That means again and again when you do the analysis, the results seem to stay constant. So a lot of researches is being conducted in the day-to-day for the CDCT analysis, for the pulse tooth ratio analysis, same way some advanced digitalized methods where we are using the particular method, clinical method. Now, clinical method means the method which is used for the analysis of any kind of diseases. But the same method we have converted it for the estimation of age or for the examination of human identification. Now let's come to a very interesting topic, that is facial approximation or facial reconstruction. What is this reconstruction? When we have any kind of a face or any kind of a dead body where the visual identity of the person is not possible, we have to lastly take the method of reconstruction. So when we do a manual reconstruction, right, like you can see on your right hand side that a skull is there, some tags has been made, and clay features are being used for the purpose of your reconstruction. So this is the manual method. But the problem with the manual method is that it is a lot more artistic. If I have a good sculpting hand, I can easily do it. If I'm not good with sculpture work, I might find it very difficult to do this kind of sculpting. But on the same time, if the same method is digitalized, that means if a software is there where all the regional data has been sent and the database and the software together is going to work to make a face like you can see on the screen here. This is how it looks like. First, I'm going to scan the skull and I'm going to upload it in the software. Then one by one, I'm going to put the eyes, I'm going to put the tissue tags and the layers of the particular muscles that we have. Now, this is one method we are using where the depth of the tissue and the shape of the muscles will be used together. That's a combination method for reconstructing the face. And the end product is something like this, which is far more accurate when it comes to the recognition of the face. Now, there is a big controversy when we talk about the digital reconstruction because some researchers believe that it is a complete art and some believe it is a scientific art. So, well, in my opinion, it is both the very fine amendment or blending of the scientific as well as the artistic method. So scientifically, first we have to estimate the age of the person, the race of the person, as well as the sex of the person. And then we can artistically sculpt that particular sample. Now, why do we have to get this age and this particular say, sex or the race I'm talking about? If you remember your grandmother's face, it is not the same as you. If you remember your 6-year-old brother's face, it is not the same as you. So with age, there are changes in the skin pattern as well as there are changes in the thickness of the skin. So when you make a face very young, it has to be very, very firm. It has to be very tight. But when you talk about an old age person, there has to be some amount of wrinkling, some amount of sagging skin. Only then it looks like a more of effective age-related face. So that's the benefit we have for the digital reconstruction of the faces. In the same way, there are multiple cases where we get these kind of samples, where the entire skull is put into different pieces. So manually fitting it together is a challenging task for the reason being that if you are using any kind of glue that will add up to the thickness of the bone, ultimately your analysis is going to be hampered because if you are taking the metric results will not be the same as compared to the natural one. So we have methods where we'll talk about virtual reality where I'll explain this to you in more detail. We have softwares in which we are going to join the pieces together, like you know about the jigsaw puzzle. So different pieces will be there, you just put it all together. So this is how you're going to do the cases of your reconstruction in a digital method. And the one method we are going to talk about in details is the virtual reality, which I'll explain you in the subsequent slide. Next we have is the facial recognition software. A very simple example I can give you today is the strong databases we have and the CCTV camera quality. Now, a person who is a wanted person and is going to go out of the country is usually going to take the air route. But in that case, what happens is the CCTV camera is going to attach the different angulated photos and it is going to match with the database. Very recently, if you have seen the web series Amazon Prime, the Family Man, in that you must have seen that the actor tries to match the terrorist face with the database just from the eyes, and they get to know that okay, he's the person who was killed. That's the same technology we use here as well. There are certain features on the face that is called as the hard tissue markers that is not going to change throughout your life. So even though if you put a wig, if you put lots of makeup, if you put a beard on your face or you cover your face, the eyes or certain features of the face still remains the same and it can still give you the results when it comes to your facial reconstruction. Then we have the facial superimposition. Now, this particular photograph that has been taken is from a very famous case in India itself. That is the Sheena Bora case. What they have done in this case is Sheena Bora's skeletons were found from the forest which was recovered, and the police recovered a smiling photograph of Sheena Bora. They have put it into a software and they have tried to match the skull and Sheena Bora's face. And like you can see in the photograph, it is a perfect match, which again proves the fact that methods like superimpositions are very much reliable, but the only catch is you need to know how to do it. So these are the features that I'm talking about, the hard tissue features like your gonion, glabella, nastion, even you have your gonion, cogonion. These features remains the same in your face. The skull shape is going to be the same. So whenever there is a case of recognition, whenever there is a case of superimposition, it can be done with a lot more accuracy. Okay. Then let's move for the 3D scanning and the 3D printing, which is one of the newest technologies that forensic has already ventured into. The benefit of these methods is that it can replicate the original samples very accurately. So I told you about a case of reconstruction. Now in that, the skull is your only evidence that you have. By chance, if the skull falls down, the evidence is gone. And with the evidence, the case is also gone. So what we can do is we can replicate the skull. Original skull, we are going to keep it safe, and the replicated skull we can use for the reconstruction. So even if by chance some kind of a mishap happens, we can still manage to do something good out of it. It is very useful in cases where the evidence needs to be preserved, like in the particular case I mentioned. Demonstration purposes, because there are many students, especially in the private colleges, who do not get the chance to visit the crime scene or to observe any real-time crime scene. So in that case, if there is a replicated demonstration sample, it can be shown to the students for learning. And these kind of samples are very durable. That means it can stay for very long time as it is the integrity is maintained as well as the thickness. Then we have the dental record. Now there was a certain time where every record that the doctor had was manually recorded, ultimately leading to files of files in the offices. Like in the government offices, you see there are some 100, 200,000 files that is kept. It is very difficult to find out one particular case when we have to search for one. So now, again, the digitalized methods are used. Softwares are available. Those softwares are like your normal, how you save your file, and you can go to a folder and you can open up the file whenever you want it. You have a search option also. So if you know the patient's name, you can easily find it out. So these methods have made life easier, as well as one of the biggest benefits is it can save the time as well as the storage spaces. Now, if there is a lot of file, you need space to keep it. But when we have the digital file, we don't need as much space. Some hard disk, some PDs, that is enough. That is going to help you to preserve the kind of evidence. Next important thing we will talk about is artificial intelligence and the machine learning. Artificial intelligence is a field of engineering science dealing with the constitutional understanding and the ability of the computer to mimic the human brain, to exhibit an intelligent behavior to perform the task effortlessly. Like these days, you see the human robot, which is having emotions as well, which can do all the work that a human can deliver. So, how does this machine learning work? It works on prediction technique, which is an algorithm that estimates an unknown dependency between a set of given input variables and its output variable. So when such dependency is observed, it can predict the future output by identifying the target function that best describes the behavior governing the input-output patterns. A simple example that I can give you is when you find a particular singer's song in YouTube, automatically after 2 or 3 days, you will see that YouTube starts to recommend to you that this singer song you should see. Some X years ago or some new, it will recommend it yourself. Same way, if you see a particular kind of a video, motivational video, the YouTube will start recommending to you. That is artificial intelligence. That the machine has sensed what kind of behavior you do, and based on that, it has given you some results back. So there are methods like your artificial intelligence, new machine learning, neural networks, as well as deep learning, which is being used for the purpose of crime prediction. So crime predictions will be very simple and accurate when we have this kind of case. If you watch Southern India like shows, you can see at the end that there are hotspots of crime. So how do we know that there is a hotspot of crime? It is based on artificial intelligence. In one, if in Delhi, continuously cases are happening, so that makes Delhi a hotspot of the crime. Same way the other cities, which is a safer one. Now, whenever we have this artificial intelligence, we should not completely overrule the fact that human intelligence is better than artificial intelligence, but at the same time, if both are combined in a proportionate manner, the results can be miraculous in combating crime. Then we move on to virtual autopsy. Now everything is getting virtualized, so why shouldn't autopsies be virtualized? Now, particularly in some cases where the autopsy is not needed, the case happened in front of you. Some cases like electrocution, where the person was working on a high electricity pole and the person got shocked and he died. So it's obvious that the reason of death is the electricity or the high voltage power. With autopsy, there are many social stigmas that is attached. The family members won't be very happy to see their loved ones torn open or cut from the face, cut from the neck, cut from the body. It comes with a psychological state. So certain situations where we can avoid a open autopsy, we can move for virtual autopsy, where we will be using again the clinical method like CT, MRI, which can be used for the autopsy. And another benefit of this virtual autopsy is that there are certain cases where the body is punctured by some multiple bullets, 8, 9, 10, 12 bullets. So when we try to trace the trajectory of the bullet, there are high chances that we will puncture more amount of tissue. But if we take a virtual picture first, in that case, the position of the bullets become visualized, then we can go ahead with the actual tracing, which will give us a better and a more reliable result. This is what I was talking some time back, virtual reality. Can you see this particular skull where a part of the lower jaw is missing? So if the part of the lower jaw is missing, we can virtually scan the sample and we can virtually make a sample and 3D print it to complete the particular phase. Now, virtual reality is also used for clinical purposes, but in case of forensics, it is a permanent record of documentation. It can take the same directly to the court. It preserves the original sample safely, and it can make multiple copies for different experimentation. So when you have one skull, you have a limitation that you cannot go ahead with other kind of cases. But when we have multiple samples, you can try and experiment with the different methods or the different ideas that you have in your mind. Effectiveness depends on the fact that different areas require different imaging techniques. The precision of virtual autopsy on detailing the anatomical structures depends on the equipment and the settings used. So you should be well aware of what you need when you need. So mostly for the research protocols, we follow the computed topography for hard tissue and MRI, that is a magnetic resonance for the soft tissue, and a combination in case we need both the results together. So here again, an example where artificial intelligence is helping to prevent crime. So it can help you in detecting gunfire, detection clues on the crime scene, as well as detecting bombs. And in case of crime prevention, it can predict the crime spot, predicting who will commit a crime based on the particular features, right? There are different studies which has been done that what is the feature of a serial killer? A very simple example just for your imagination or understanding I'm giving, a serial killer will have a very thick eyebrow. They will have a round face. They will have a long nose. So when we feed all this information to the machine, that is AI is going to identify these features on everybody. So whoever has this feature or it has a partial of this feature is going to commit a crime. So if you know that beforehand, you are in a position to stop that person from committing crime, thus prevent crime and deciding the pre-trial release of a person or not. That means whether a person is harmful for you or not, that can be decided, and pre-trial based or release can be monitored as well. Sketching is a very old method what we perform in the crime scene where a witness is being called upon and they are used to sketch that photographic experts are there. They are going to sketch the face, but that is not uniform at all. There is a lot of bias when it comes to manual sketching, plus it is not a more permanent record and it is comparatively time saving where the digitalized method is going to be used. So these methods ultimately is going to help you to give a more accurate, reliable, reproducible, as well as a time-saved method. When we come to methods of photography, that is your digital photography, there has been methods where we are going to convert the manual photography into digital photography. What you see on screen right now is an example of Digitalisation software where the entire crime scene is going to be fed into the software and the software is going to do the analysis for you. So what it takes is DCMeister is an easy to use and flexible image analysis software package that allows precise manual measurements as well as automatic object detection with measurements of object characteristics. So the files may be anything starting from JPG, GIF, TIFF file, BMP, PNG. In whatever file you upload, the results will be very much the same. Now, next few slides, I'm going to just show you some of the more advanced technologies that we have in forensics. The first one is your Camsonar company, this mobile automated fingerprint device. So it's more like a mobile device that you can see. Instead of developing it manually, instead of recording it manually, the entire process is now converted into a digital. Same way for footprint analysis. I talked about alternate light sources, but in this particular case down, what you see is the camera which is attached with different light sources. So you don't need additional of devices when it comes to your alternate light sources. You have it all in one particular device. This is another company material where it is a footprint analysis that complete thing is inside the software and you're going to analyze it quite quickly. This is another company where you can see that one particular fingerprint device has the different light sources already fitted into it. So you don't need any extra devices in order to analyze your fingerprint. This is an example of your tablet and a smartphone that is mentioned only for forensic purposes. So if the sample is old, if the sample is very, very trace pieces, these kind of devices can be very useful for your forensic investigation. So that's what I'm talking about, a CSI Pro smartphone which can help you to analyze your fingerprint, any kind of body fluid as well as any kind of forged document. Then we have the automatic number plate recognition system. I'm sure many of you know about it, that all of a sudden when you break the rules now, what happens? You just get a message on your phone that you had been seen in this area disobeying the traffic rules and ultimately a fine has been imposed. So that is through the technologies of ANPR. What you see here, the highways, they have these hidden cameras which is going to record the movement of the car. If there is any kind of movement, suspicious movement, the number plate is going to be recorded, the number is going to be zoomed and analyzed, and you get a particular system which is attached to the software, and that is going to send you the message. So that's your ANPR. Then we have the biosensors. Biosensors are ultra-sensitive devices which can be used to analyze minuscule samples of bodily fluid found in and around the fingerprint. That means if it is in a very, very trace quantity, very small quantity, the data can be used to generate information on the possible gender, age, traces of any kind of drugs or medication, or any other variable that we want. Forensic comparison microscope. Now, when we have to compare something, if we have a manual comparison, it can lead to a lot of problem because visually there might be bias. But when we have a comparison microscope, this is how you're going to see the image side by side together. The same microscope is going to give you two images, two evidences together at a time. So in that case, the analysis becomes more accurate as well as it becomes more reliable. So this is what we generally have in case of digital term digitalization of forensics. But lastly, I would stress upon two things. All the technologies that I have spoken about is subjected to research. That means most of the technology still now is not admissible in the court of law owing to the fact that we still don't know what is the bias error or what is the standard error rate in case of these analysis. And second is all of these technologies comes at a price. So this countries like ours, that is third world countries or the developing countries, we cannot afford to spend a lot of amount when it comes to spending on technologies. That's why very few institutes, very few laboratories have access to these kind of state of the art technology. So whoever today is watching this and you're interested to explore more into forensic, more into the technologies or the development, you might choose to take up this as a research topic and come up with a solution that yes, these techniques can be used. It is better than the conventional techniques, or in some cases, it is not better than the conventional techniques. All of it can be proven through the deliberate researches. And since we are talking about digital, there are two misnomers that I would like to clear for you: digital rape and digital fingerprinting. When we hear the word digital rape, we think that it has something to do with a virtual rape, but it's a completely misunderstood term because here the word digital comes from the word digit, and digit is also the other name of finger. So fingering in some cases is considered as a rape. That is where the term digital rape is coming into play. That instead of penetrating the sexual organs, if you are penetrating your finger, that is your digit, that is your digital rape. And second term is digital fingerprinting. That has nothing to do with your digitalized fingerprinting, but this means that when you search and Google something, automatically Google starts recommending. The same example I gave you for the YouTube, that is called as your digital fingerprinting. Now, if you know that privacy is a complete myth, so whatever information you're giving to your system, like you give permissions for using any kind of app or you are filling up your details anywhere in the social media, all of it ultimately is going to be used for your body or your brain understanding, and then the machine will start giving you the results based on that. That is called as your digital fingerprinting. So that's all from my side. I hope I could explain some things to you. And at the same time, I believe it was a little fast, and the only reason for that was 1 hour time is not sufficient to cover such a huge topic. But still, I would really request few of you can take up the researches on this topic and come up with a permanent solution. So if there is any question from your side, I would be happy to take that.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I would request Mrs. Rajlakshmi Nambiar, ma'am, IQC coordinator of MCT College of Law, to kindly extend today's concluding remark. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, sir. A very pleasant good morning to all those present here. I, Mrs. Rajlakshmi Nambiar, take this opportunity It's a great honor and privilege to thank you all of you on behalf of Hindi Vidya Prachar Samiti College of Law and Manjra Charitable Trust College of Law on the eve of the guest lecture series on digital forensic, an emerging global subject which has turned to one of the inevitable and essential part of modern scientific criminal investigation, particularly in the changed scenario of crime. First of all, on behalf of MCT College of Law, I take the privilege of expressing our unlimited gratitude to the Hindi Vidya Prajar Samiti College of Law and its Honorable President Dr. Rajendra Singh, Director Dr. Usha Mugundan, and Principal Dr. Madhura Kalamkar for including our college as a collaborating institution to share this wonderful platform, followed by much interesting and brainstorming sessions. On behalf of these two renowned institutions, I express our sincere gratitude to our honorable speakers, Dr. Malvika Mehta, Mr. Abhinav Saurabh, Mr. Arjun Chetri, and Chaitanya Vij, Mr. Sumit Rai, Ms. Pooja Chakraborty, for having enlightened the audience with their profound knowledge and rich experience in their respective areas where they have proved their worth and skill. I also extend our sincere gratitude to Mr. Rajesh Kushlani, Dr. Jitendra Chitnis, Dr. Francis Vaidya, Mr. Sumit Rai, and Dr. UK Nambia for gracing the inaugural session with their esteemed presence and sharing their wisdom to all of us. The role played by IAQC Coordinator Assistant Professor Mr. Amar Salve, Event Coordinators Assistant Professors Ms. Saisha Gosalkar and Mr. Divan Potar is highly appreciable and praiseworthy. I extend my sincere thanks to these dynamic faculties of HVPS College of Law, whose active role have become instrumental to lead this 3 days long event to the height of success. There are many others who work tirelessly behind the curtain for making this event in a successful manner and to achieve the goal. My thanks to go these silent members. I also, on behalf of the two institutions, express my gratitude to the students, teaching and non-teaching staff and well-wishers of HVPS and MCT College of Law, and also to all the participants of this memorable event. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your words of wisdom. I, Assistant Professor Amar Salve, feeling extremely honored while extending a formal vote of thanks on behalf of Hindi Vidya Prachar Samiti's College of Law on the occasion of this guest lecture series on digital forensics. Firstly, I take an opportunity to thank our very supporting management. Thank you for their constant support for every event, starting with Dr. Rajendra Singh Sir, President of Hindi Vidya Prachar Samiti, Dr. Usha Mukundan Madam, Director of Hindi Vidya Prachar Samiti. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our Honorable Principal Madam, Dr. Mrs. Madhura Kalamkar, for her timely instructions and kind support. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Dr. UK Nambia Sir, IC Principal of MCT College of Law, for your valuable guidance and strong support. Sir, we wish to have many more collaborating events in future also with MCT College of Law. I would like to thank Mrs. Raj Lakshmi Nambiar Madam, IQC Coordinator of MCT College of Law. I am expressing my profound gratitude to our so many esteemed guests for different sessions. I am starting in the order of sequence of these sessions. Dr. Malvika Mehta, Associate Vice President, Perlius Technology, Mr. Abhinav Saurabh, Forensic Consultant, Mr. Arjun Shetri, Research Scholar in Digital Forensic, Mr. Sumit Rai, Forensic Expert, Dr. Pooja Chakraborty, Forensic Odontologist. My sincere and hearty thanks to our both event coordinator, Assistant Professor Saisha Gusargar and Assistant Professor Divyang Poddar for their wonderful coordination for these 3 days. I am also thankful to all our teaching, non-teaching and technical staff for their kind support. These technical sessions were handled by our technical team, and their continuous support for no interruption and continuous technical aid was provided by our technical team. A big thanks to our technical team also. I am also thankful to all the student participants who continuously 3 days actively joining, logging, and they are just feeding all the feedbacks. One more request is the feedback form link and quiz link are already pasted in the chat box. I am requesting all the participants. Quiz timing is next 10 minutes. So please, first you fill quiz link, and one more instruction. Both links are very important, feedback link and quiz link. On that basis, you will definitely get certificate, and try to fill it with your knowledge, whatever you gain in these 3 sessions, 3 days, because the thing is that on the basis of gaining marks, you will definitely get certificate within a week. Thanks a lot for sparing time with us. Everybody have a good day. Thank you so much. We can end up for the section with the principal ma'am's permission. Principal ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. We can log out.